people can't read your mind. I feel like oftentimes nowadays you see a lot of the whole if he wanted to, he would, or if she wanted to, she would kind of mentality, where people kind of assume that everybody knows what they're thinking, everybody knows what their problems are, and that's just not the case. That's not true in any sense. So I think what you need to understand is if you really want to grow something with somebody, whether that is romantically or just a friendship, you have to address the problem. And I know sometimes it gets in our head where we're like, well, if they were truly thinking about me this much, then they would reach out to me. Or if they really cared this much, then they would reach out to me on their own. I wouldn't have to ask, which in some cases is true. But there's so many problems with that because you don't know if they're worried about reaching out to you because they don't want to bother you. You don't know if they have their own stuff going on and maybe they do want to reach out, but they never have the time to. And the problem with that kind of thinking is that there's so many things that could be going on in somebody else's life that we kind of get caught up in our own feelings and we never really think about what are they going through, right? And it's obviously important for them to think a similar way to that. It's important for you to care about each other in a sense. But the whole, like, if he wanted to, he would. If she wanted to, she would. It causes a negative energy or whatever, just because of the fact that you're bottling up all these emotions based on hoping that they will reach out to you or they will just stop doing what they've always done their whole life just because you don't like it, right? But the thing is, especially when you're in a new relationship, that's not always the case because you guys are getting to know each other, you're learning each other, you're understanding how each other are. So they're not going to pick it up off the first bat. There's been so many times where I've had girls say something to me and drop hints at me and I don't even acknowledge it. Like, I've had so many conversations with my parents about it, and they're like, or like friends, and then they'll just be like, dude, she's literally telling you right there that she likes you. And I was like, is that what that means? Because I have no clue that that's what that means. Sometimes I get kind of like dumb when it comes to the whole hint dropping thing, but that's like another example of like, it's better to be direct a lot of the times. Now, I feel like sometimes an indirect approach is a good thing, but I think being direct makes it so that there is no other answer. Like, they can't change their answer because they think that you said this, right? Or you're saying this. They have a definitive answer for whatever you are saying because you stated directly out to them. You state directly what you have a problem with. That way they can fix it. But here's the thing. They can't read your mind. So if you want anything to grow, you have to tell them. It's as simple as that. And I think a lot of us get caught up in our egos and we do the whole, if she wanted to, she would. If he wanted to, he would. To kind of like just in negative hopes that they'll change, somehow, reach through our brain and read how we're thinking or whatever. And that's just not true. And I mean, you can sit here and think about, like, you could literally dedicate your day to thinking about, what are they thinking about? What, like, insecurities do they have? And you could think all you want. And sure, you might get a few right, but there's some that are, like, so deep into their brain or so deep into their character that you might not even, like, pick up on it. But to them, it's a big deal, right? So you will never be able to do this, but there is a way, though. Simply ask. Simply just communicate. That's really all it takes. If you have a problem, like if you have an insecurity, like I know a big one for me is just like celebrity crushes. Like, I feel like every dude and girl, if we're all being honest, nobody likes to hear your significant other talking about like somebody of the opposite sex and how great looking they are, how they wish they were with them, or whatever other stuff they say. But it's not just with celebrities. It's the same thing like when you go out in public and you see like an attractive, dude or girl, and you immediately get like maybe insecure because you fear that she'll leave you for that person or whatever. But I think that will definitely go away once you build up enough trust with somebody. So I feel like that's just an early stage thing, not as much as like it, or at least I would hope it's not a full like if you were dating or if you were together or married for like 10 years, would you still worry about them leaving you in that sense? I mean, you shouldn't have to, right? And I know it happens, it does, but believe it or not, there is true love that still exists. And I think it all just comes down to you finding the right one. But anyways, I feel like when you build enough trust with somebody, you wouldn't ever think that, right? And let's assume that that's the case. So I'm not assuming that they're going to cheat or something like that randomly, and it happens, yes. But I'm saying for this example, let's just assume that that is not possible. Then you wouldn't have to worry about this kind of stuff, right? But in the early stages, it kind of gets to, I feel like people don't admit it. Like they'll say that they don't care, but that's the thing right there. That's when they hit the, if she wanted to, she would. If he wanted to, he would mindset. Because they don't want to tell how they actually feel. So they hide it behind a mask. When in reality, it does affect them. It does bother them. And it's like, even with the people that do like talk about like celebrity crushes all day long, that those people would be the most insecure about it. That those are the same people that when the moment you even looked in a different like person's way that was attracted to them, immediately they would have insecurities out the ass. So I don't really think anybody's like kind of like safe from this. I think some people, I think more just depends on how you talk about people. Like if you're going full detail on like how you wish you were with them and all this other stuff, like you're just asking for just a negative either conversation, a negative argument, or just a negative relationship and altogether, because that just shows like dishonesty and just no loyalty at all. So like it's one of those things where you kind of just like gotta explain yourself. You know, you can't be afraid of being a little vulnerable, which I know I definitely am, but I don't know if you are. But it comes down to like, if you want a relationship, whether it is with just a friend or it is with like a significant other, you have to be somewhat vulnerable, somewhat honest to finally start building something great. Because it's kind of sad, but it's true. I feel like when people bond, like when people talk about their traumas, it creates a very strong bond. Not saying it can't be broken, but it creates a very strong bond because, people relate to it. Everybody goes through tough times. It doesn't matter who you are. You've been through a tough time. So when people talk about what the kind of stuff they've been through, especially in like relationships, like you want to know what happened in their past and like all this other stuff, it creates a stronger bond. So if you hold back these thoughts, these insecurities, these fears, these doubts, and you never explain anything to them, you're always just going to resent them for pretty much ever until you finally open up. And I feel like it's better to do this sooner rather than later. I mean, obviously, if it's like the day one, I mean, I wouldn't go full in. But like, if you can get some stuff off your chest, like if you guys are like dating, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to talk about, maybe one poor experience, like just a simple, how was your dating life or whatever. You could find out a lot about the person. Some people might disagree with me on that, but I think it's a good thing to kind of bond over, because you understand somewhat of what the other person's been through, so you know what to expect. If someone got cheated on, I mean, yes, I've heard this too, and I agreed with it for a little bit until I realized I was that. Then I didn't agree with it so much. It's when people are like, never pick up like somebody that's had like a really bad past, never give them a chance because it's just like, it's bad baggage or whatever, and then they're just going to display it onto you. And I do think that is true in a sense, but I think it ultimately comes down to how they actually are as a person, because not everybody that's been through trauma is going to display that onto everybody. Yes, there are people out there that are like that, And the relationship can work, but I think it's definitely a lot harder. But like with me, like everybody's been screwed over, everybody's been that, and the truth is everybody has some type of baggage. Are you mature enough to understand that the person you're talking to is new and they're not the past, right? Or for this case, if the other person, like the person you're talking to, went through a bunch of stuff, are you mature enough to be there for them? Are you mature enough to, gain their trust? That way they don't have to worry about the same thing happening all over again. It ultimately just comes down to like trust, honesty. The honesty. Like a lot of us, like even me, I would consider myself a pretty honest person, but then when I really thought about it, I was like, I haven't really explained anything. Like I never really explained insecurities, because when people just talk to me, they think I'm just happy all the time, good dude to talk to, whatever, and I typically am, but there are times, just like everybody else, that times get hard. So but nobody be able to guess. So it's like that. Like if I just sat here and I was like, if she wanted to, she would. I'd be sitting here forever, because they can't read my mind. How are they supposed to help me if they can't even read my mind, right? It's like you trying to get help from God, but you don't even believe in God. You're putting your faith in nothing. So you're expecting him to do everything for you, but yet you don't even believe in him. So how is he supposed to help you? You don't even believe that he exists, so how are you supposed to see the results? That's the thing. It's kind of like that. Like, if you're talking to a different person, you're trying to start this relationship with them, and maybe they do something you don't like, or maybe... The thing is, like, I think it's just really poor communication, ultimately. That's what it comes down to, is just honesty, poor communication, all that. Like I said, I'm a pretty honest person, but when I realized I wasn't really telling this other person, like, how I actually was, that I was kind of lying. Like when somebody says, how are you? And you just say good, or I, or all right, or okay, or whatever. But even though there's something like digging at the back of your head, you basically lied, right? Obviously most people are not gonna like fault you for this, because everybody does it. But that's an example of lying. Now what would happen if you were able to actually get that stuff off your chest and just explain yourself? Then you're allowing your partner or friend or whatever to kind of understand you as a person. I feel like that is like one of the best ways to build up relationships. And I mean, it's a very, very, very scary, because you don't know how the other person's going to react. You don't know what the response is going to be. You're afraid that if you tell them the truth, that you're gonna scare them away. There's a bunch of fears at play, and I have like a whole list of them. Like literally, I have a whole list. But yet, I know if I don't do it, the relationship is gonna go nowhere. Like literally, it will go nowhere. It will die off, and it'll be just another girl that I knew 10 years ago. So, if you really want to build something with somebody, that's what you gotta do. Man, woman, it doesn't matter what you are. You have to be somewhat vulnerable. And here's the thing, like if you're a guy and you're afraid of being a little vulnerable because you're afraid that the woman is going to think you're less of a man, here's what I'd say. Do it. Come on across your feelings. Tell them how you really feel about everything. Assuming that you've been talking for quite a bit of time, right? Let them know how you really are. And if they think you're less of a man, fuck them. Like, don't talk to them anymore. Find someone better. There is 4 billion of the opposite gender in the world, right? Go find them, or whatever you're into. Guys, girls, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. But there's so many other people out there. Just understand. Like, here's the thing, and I think this is a big problem too in relationships. Understand your self-worth, because a lot of people let this get caught up in relationships, so they kind of lose that sense of self-worth. And I think you just gotta keep your eyes open. Don't let your heart blind you, if that makes sense. If for example, if I was to tell this girl, right, I'm really afraid of this. I'm afraid of putting too much time into you, because I'm afraid that it's not going to work out and it's just another wasted 4 years, 5 years, 3 months. Doesn't matter. Wasted time, right? We only have a limited time on this planet. If I tell her this and I'm telling her, like, I'm just very scared of getting used, I'm afraid of getting cheated on, I'm afraid of just being left in the dark, I'm afraid of getting ghosted, whatever it is that you're afraid of, and you're explaining these things to them, and then they're just using it as a way to go against you. Like, if say they just said, you know, you're just insecure. How does that help me in any sense? Great, you stated the obvious. Everybody's insecure to an extent. Doesn't matter who you are. I don't care if you're the most confident person. I'm a very confident guy myself, but like when I get into relationships, it's like the confidence in myself is there, but the confidence in the relationship is gone. So I feel like there's two different like states, if that makes sense, in my eyes. Because you got you, me, and us, right? You have confidence in yourself, and it's up to you to decide how confident you are in both of you and her. You know, how confident are you in her character? It's that kind of thing. So there's different confidences for the three parts. You just got to understand that. And some people don't. Like, I mean, that's the truth, but if I was to say that, right? That I was scared of all these things. You know, in two ways. One of them, the one I just explained, uses it against you. That's your sign, you know, just ghost them, do whatever you want. Just get them out of your life as soon as possible because you're asking for a very toxic relationship. Same thing with friendship too. Like if you came out to your like best friend and they're treating like shit because you told them the truth, why would you want to put yourself around that kind of person, right? And then the second part, you tell them how you truly feel, friend or significant other, and then it actually goes good. And then maybe, just maybe, they'll tell you the same thing back. They'll be like, well, that's crazy because I was worried about the same exact things, or I'm worried about this, or I'm very scared that this is going to happen between us, or whatever it is, or I'm very insecure about this. You're never going to find this shit out if you don't just take the lead and just tell them. Sometimes that's all you need. You just got to be the one to stand up, doesn't matter who you are, and just say how you feel. And then if they're not maybe direct with you, then you just ask a simple question. What kind of fears, insecurities, doubts, or whatever do you have that you could tell me so that we're both, you know, exchanging how we really are as people? You don't want to be left in the dark because it leads to just bad stuff. When you're not on the same page, when you don't know what the other person wants, when you don't know what they want with their future, you don't know what they want. Some people might say that I'm kind of pushing it, but like if you don't know about their past or they don't know about yours, it makes people overthink about things. Like, what did this guy do to these girls? Or what did this girl do with all these guys? You know, like, there's so much stuff. It's best to get most of the stuff out in the beginning because like I said, you could never bring any of this up, date her for a year, and when you finally do bring it up, you might just think of her as a whole different person, or you might think of him as a whole different person and just be completely uninterested. So it's better to get some of this stuff out in like at least the first like couple months, I think. Just don't lose that. Don't get so caught up in your ego, like with being vulnerable. Like it sounds like cliche, but that's the thing. It's like, I think it's one of the best things for mental health because when you bottle stuff up, it really messes with your head, like a lot. So and especially when it's about a person, like I could sit here, talk to my parents, I could talk to my friends, I could talk to everybody. But if I never attack the problem initially, if I never attack it, the problem's never gonna get solved and it's always just gonna stay in here. Understand it will never leave until you face the problem. And that's in a lot of things in life. The problem is never gonna leave until you face it head on. It's scary. You don't know how the other person is gonna react. Sometimes we know what we need to say, and sometimes we do know what the other person is gonna say because we know what kind of people they are. And most times we're like, yeah, the chances of her screwing me over after telling her how I feel is like 1%, but yeah, I'm still scared. Like, that's how it is. Because you're scared of opening up. It's a fear of being open. And you wanna know how you get rid of fears? You face the fear. That's it. That's all you can do. Doesn't matter who you talk to, what you look up on YouTube, what you type into ChatGPT, it literally does not matter. You just have to face the fear. It's that simple. It'll be a very awkward, hard conversation. Even with friends, it gets awkward sometimes because you're just like, you don't know how to act because you've never really been in this, or they don't know how to act because they're just like, I'm not good with this emotional stuff, and that's okay. But it's better to get this stuff off the chest to the people it's directed towards, whereas just you're just not saying anything. Everybody's got insecurities, everybody's got doubts, fears about stuff, especially in the beginning. And the thing is, a relationship and really anything in life that you want to grow, it's not going to be all sunshine or rainbows. It's just not how it is. Don't assume, like, here's the thing. A lot of us, you, me, we might think the most negative things in certain aspects of life. Like, for me, if one day I started my own business, right, like, I know that there's possibility of negatives, right? I'll just use it as an example. But the fear in, like, starting a business and a fear of starting a relationship are, like, completely different for me. Like, I'm very scared of relationships compared to, like, starting a business or doing this. Like, the risk is people finding my videos making fun of me. Like, that's the risk, but nothing else. It's not like I talk about anything terrible that's gonna miss me a job or something like that. But the risk is people, like, they'll judgment. That's the risk. See, with relationships, it's a different kind of risk. Like, with business, it's different risk. Like, some people they could let anybody walk in their life, but starting a business, hell no, they would not do that. So it's one of those things. Like, it's different for everybody, but you just gotta, call me whenever you want, but I think being at least a little vulnerable, doesn't matter how tough you are, being a little vulnerable can go a long way. Because if you just let that doubt and insecurity and everything eat you up from the inside, and you're just assuming the other person should just know what you feel, like, put it like this way, like, when you're talking to this person, treat them like don't treat them poorly, that's not what I'm saying, but, like, treat them as if they have no idea what you're talking about. Like, when it comes to things like this, act like they have no clue what you're saying, like you're speaking a whole other language. They don't understand anything. That way you can get it as direct as possible, so that there is no, like, missed out things to where because, like, here's the thing. If you have a tank, like, right, like, your body is this tank. You have all these fears, all this, everything, and say, like, maybe I get one or two things out. Yeah, that helps. But the problem is there's still something in there that's making me guess. It's making me overthink. It's making me doubt. It's best to just get it all out. And, like I said, if they're the right person, friend, whoever, if they are the right people that you need to be around, they will not care if it's, like, this long text. Like, I know some people, like, they trip over that. Like, they're like, man, this text is just so long. This is bad. I should not send this. It's like, no, just send it. Or get on a call, or both. Like, literally. You don't know what the other person's going through. They could be going through the same thing as you, but they don't have that, that urge to just be able to tell you. Maybe they're waiting for a lead. You really don't know why, because nobody says anything. So sometimes you just have to be the bigger person, put your ego to the side, understand that maybe sometimes you have to initiate something. And then that's when good things happen. I feel like when you get past that really negative part where, like, you're allowing all these negative past experiences affect the current one, when you get it all out of the way, I feel like it lifts you up in a different way, especially when they have a good response. Like, obviously, when they have a bad response, it's not a good feeling, but at least you shouldn't waste your time with that person, right? It's hard. You're going to go through a tough time, but, like, at least you didn't waste more time. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. But, yeah, man, I mean, just attack your fears, understand that you gotta be direct sometimes, be vulnerable a little bit. Like, it's hard. It's definitely hard for me, but it'll be okay, because either way, you win. You win by, whether you get a good response or a bad response out of it, you win by getting it off your chest, not bottling it up anymore, getting out in the open to that person that it needs to be, right? And if you win, not only does that happen, but then you both connect even stronger. And it's a stronger bond that's going to last even longer because you both get it out of the way. Just make sure you also hear them out too. Don't just say your stuff and then just never ask. Like, once again, don't have that mindset of, oh, if she wanted to, she would, or if he would, he would. Just invite them to kind of say how they feel. And then you, like I said, it will just create your bond even stronger. And sure, they might say a few things you don't like they'll be like, oh, I don't really trust you. I think you're going to play me or something like that. And the thing is, it's better to know because then you can start like helping out. Whereas making them more scared because you don't seem to care about what they think. So like, that's still a win. Like, in reality, it creates, your bond gets stronger, and the thing they're going to be like is, well, if this person's really this open with me, they have to be somewhat honest, right? They have to be somewhat trustworthy. Nobody's just spitting this out to anybody. And then the other thing is, like, say you get a bad response. Well, you still get it off your chest, that's good, to the right person. And then 2 is that you stop wasting your time with the wrong person. It's as simple as that. So you're winning either way. And I think we often stop ourselves from doing this because we're scared of the response. But the truth is, do you really want to waste your whole life with the wrong person or the wrong people to be around? No. So if they're the right people that need to be in your life, I say just do it. And just, you'll know based on the response to if you should keep them in your life or not. It's like a big fear of mine is investing a bunch of time into the wrong people, because that's time. That's like, I don't want to waste my time. It's like throwing dollar bills on the street, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and it's just gone, just for nothing, right? Like, imagine I was just throwing hundreds at this car and it slowly started upgrading and eventually got to a Lamborghini, and then all of a sudden, poof, it was gone. My money's gone, the car's gone, everything. That's how I view like relationships, is like I'm sitting here, right, with my time. I'm just putting it out, pushing it out, pushing it out, pushing it out, pushing it out, and then the person's just upgrading. They're getting better, we're getting closer, and all of a sudden, they're gone. Forever. I don't get my time back, I don't get the person back, they're gone. So that's how I view like investing much of time in it. It's scary stuff, because you don't know when it could just poof, it's gone forever. So that's why you gotta really just focus on putting yourself around the right people. That's what I'm saying. A vulnerability could make your bond, it could either do one or two things. It's either going to strengthen it a lot, or it's going to weaken it because they're going to have a bad response to it and then push you away. Or you push them out of your life because you're like, well, I have enough respect for myself to not keep them in my life. So it's as simple as that. You just got to think of it differently. But just face your fears. If anything, if you're a dude and you're really worried about being like a little vulnerable, just do it. Because like at the end of the day, what does a guy do? What is a masculine thing to do? A masculine thing to do is to face your fears, be brave no matter the outcome. Well, now's your chance to be a man. So here's your case. I mean, I'm being honest. So just look at it that way. You're benefiting, right? No matter what way it goes. It's scary, but that's the thing with fear, is it's scary. You got to be brave. Brave doesn't mean that you're not scared. Brave means you do it even though you're scared. It's different. So it's a scary thing, but I promise you, you'll get through it. I'll get through it. We all will get through it. It's just different, It's scary, but I got faith in you. I got faith in myself. I got faith in God. He'll keep us on the right path. And as always, life isn't too short to make a change.